And here we go! We're live! Alan, do your thing.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, you gotta work on that, man. Welcome all to the,
Does that work?
Oh, that sort of worked. Kind of. I don't know.
Sort of worked.
Welcome to the Crafty Boys are so professional. Welcome to the Crafty Boys. This is episode whatever of the lockdown, the pandemic, the COVID series. How's it going? Basically, what we do is we drink beer and we review it, and hopefully it doesn't suck, because we are very, very, very particular with every type of beer. And I'm going to start over there with Dave, who's looking very sexy. Dave, what beer are you drinking now? I think this is the same beer that Alan has. Is this correct?
Before we go there, I'm dying to ask this question. I'm not. I think Shane, you might be the only one that would care.
Okay, I care.
So, question is, the pandemic, the game.
Yes.
Do we need a COVID-19 edition?
Would
that ever be a thing, or am I way too far ahead of the game?
I would.
Are we talking about the card game?
We were talking
the
about
pandemic board game.
The board game.
You never played Pandemic?
I might have played it with Shane because Shane has it.
Yep, I played it.
Totally played it. Yeah.
Do we need a COVID version? Probably.
Game, actually, it's lots of fun, but I've been super curious.
I would drop that shit right away.
Yeah, it should be out there. To be honest, I would be surprised if Pandemic doesn't already have a COVID version. Pandemic board game, COVID. Let's see. Is it a thing? Currently the most popular board game this is the best part, in Victoria, BC.
Oh.
Let's see. I'm pulling up their website. Pandemic by Z-Man Games doesn't have an expansion for. Of course, they are selling the Pandemic 10th Anniversary Edition. So there you go. So I guess not. But you know what? I would not be surprised if they brought that out because, reasons. Of course, Pandemic also has the Pandemic version called the Reign of Cthulhu. So apparently, there you go.
New.
They have. Oh my God! There's so many different versions of Pandemic now. This is just astonishing. Pandemic Iberia, Pandemic Rising Tide. Good Lord, I have no idea. There's too many. But I would not be surprised if we suddenly would have a COVID edition of Pandemic, the board game, which, by the way, is a fun game. If you don't have it, I would recommend checking it out. Locke's face is on fire, and what were we talking about? Beer. Tell me more about the beer, sir.
Beer. So myself and one other of our number was able to make this happen. So we might be insane.
The dill pickle ghost.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's a dill pickle ghost from R&B Brewing in Vancouver.
Dill picker. If you were going to make it a successful dill pickle beer, it would have to be a ghost, wouldn't it? What else?
This is true. There is nothing else. So, what else?
So I'm a little bit frightened about this. I don't know. Actually, I can't even find the beer on the R&B Brewing website. They don't even have it listed. I had a look for it on Untapped, and the reviews are kind of ranging. It's scoring about a 3.5 out of 5 on there on average. But some people are saying that it's really refreshing and that it goes well with things like fish and chips.
Okay, I can see that because dill pickle goes with all kinds of sort of
I gotta say,
tart sandwiches. Yeah.
I smell cukes.
Do you? Yeah, I do a little bit,
fully.
and I'm getting a hint of salt. So let's see. Here we go. Okay.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
All right.
Dive in. Oh.
Oh.
Oh
Okay,
my
so
god.
that is full on dill pickle. There is no
It is.
question. It is
It's like
fully dill
taking
pickle.
an empty jar of dill pickles with just the brine in it.
Maybe
and
that's what
just
they
drinking
did.
that.
Maybe
That's what they did. They
did.
put in brine. This is actually amazing.
Wow.
I can totally see eating this or drinking this with fish and chips.
I suddenly want
Beer-
fish and chips now.
Oh my god, beer battered fish and chips with this.
Ooh.
Would you put beer batter though?
Huh?
I
Would
think
you
would
put that in the
be,
beer batter?
as the kids say,
So,
This is
Locke,
really good.
what's the beer you're drinking tonight, sir? If it's not one of like 7 or 8, it's probably Trooper. It's Trooper, isn't it? Oh, it's not. Bone Shaker. Okay, all right.
Brewery. This is a venerable company from the Toronto area. I remember their brewery back when it was located down sort of just off of King Street. Actually, on King Street, I guess, really. But the patio was a little further up. I once went to their brewery to pick up several kegs of beer for a North by Northeast festival that never happened. The festival happened, but we had the most awesome location possible. We had a prop factory for the film industry, and that's where we were going to throw our party. The band was like sort of indie, sort of a little bit of a sort of a white boy funk kind of a thing, but they were they were indie as well or whatever.
Or whatever.
Anyway, it would have been awesome. And then we found out at the 11th hour that there was a guy who had was going through a divorce with his wife and was living unofficially in the ceiling area of the place, and wouldn't let us throw the party and threatened to call the police if we did. So in the end, we canceled and then had to figure out how to insulate, because it was summer, like 6 kegs of beer so that we could return them without them. And Amsterdam, to their credit, took the kegs back the next day, and always going to lose money on it, but it would have been the most awesome party that whole festival, and it got fucked up by some guy with fucking bad marital issues. So anyway, there you go. There's my story. But otherwise, Amsterdam Brewery have been around for a while in Toronto. They make kick-ass beer. This one it's a little bit unique in that it's an IPA. It's a strong IPA, but it's not. I wouldn't call it. It's not properly Northwest style. It's not properly Northeast style. It doesn't have that citrusy, foggy thing going on. Right. It doesn't have the piney, resiny thing going on. What it has is a surprising amount of malt for an IPA, but the hops are still pretty forward, and it's 7.1%.
Wow, not bad, not bad.
Yeah. So anyway, that is what I am drinking this evening.
So, what beer am I drinking tonight? It's a big question. I don't know much about it, except that it is called... Where'd my camera go? It is called Rocket Dog. It is a dark session IPA. It has, according to the can, 0 international beer units. Infinite
What?
taste. It said it's IBU's like 0. It's from Red Collar Brewing. Red Collar Brewing, I think, is in Kelowna or Kamloops. Let me Google that before I speak.
Do they know how to?
Red Collar Brewing. Yeah, Kamloops. Sorry.
What kind of a beer is it?
It is a
The
dark session IPA.
So,
Rocket Dog.
Do they know how to make an IPA? If the IBUs are 0?
This is the question on the table. I don't understand. Actually, I've just opened it, so I'm going to spill it everywhere.
Like, how does that work? Can you have an IPA with no IBUs?
So here we go. A
have you
session.
tasted it yet?
A session. I'll tell you in a second. A session. Oh God. Stupid age mixed with ridiculousness. All right, hang on. I'm going to read the can. There's actually some writing on it. Here we go. A sessionable dark ale brewed with a wealth of out-of-this-world hops. Rocket Dog combines the light and dark as smooth bitterness. Dark as smooth? With the dark as smooth? Okay, as smooth bitterness and citrus stone fruit aromas meld with a subtle malt character. One could call this beer a black hole of hops, as it is technically void of any bitterness, but in reality is bursting with flavor. A 0 IBU enigma that ventures into the far reaches of your palate. Space isn't that lonely when there's beer. Houston, we have a good boy. There you go. So they acknowledge that it is a very weird beer. So I will tell you in a sec once I've poured it out here. And a dark session ale. Here we go. Okay, and there's the color, boys and girls. It's sort of an amber, a dark
Look at
amber.
the head.
Look at the head on
That
that.
head is beautiful.
Oh my God, this smells amazing. What is that? That is beer, and it smells like an IPA. Here we go.
Really? Okay.
Oh, the IPA smell is overpowered by a malty taste.
Mm.
I like it. It's different. That is unusual. Well done, Red Collar Brewing, out of Kamloops, British Columbia. And I am very sad that I only have one can of this. 0 IBU, infinite taste.
Same here with the Ghost. I wish I had
You would
more than
drink
one can. I would get this again. In fact, I am going to get this again. I'm going to go buy another can. I don't think this is something I would want to buy like in a case or something like that and chug back, time after time after time. But it's an interesting, different flavor, and frankly, I think my oldest son is going to be ticked at me for drinking this tonight because he's not here. And
that's the one he wanted to try. Right.
This is the one he wanted to try. So I'm going to have to buy another one to make sure that he doesn't put me into a cheap nursing home when I get to that age. Why are you putting me in this place of despair? Because you drank that beer that one time 30 years ago.
Well, I gotta say, there is some news about the Pandemic board game that I just noticed from my earlier search, and apparently the maker of the game is being very critical about individuals talking about COVID-19, because the game idea is that everyone has to play as a cooperative, otherwise nobody can win the game single-handedly. You have to have multiple people. And apparently he is quite cheesed off about the whole partisanship, the whole, politicized version of COVID-19 these days. How's everyone been standing? Have you also did you survive this past week of your isolation at home?
Still ticking along.
You're still ticking along? Locke, I understand that you are getting beer delivered. Did another delivery arrive this week? Or did you venture out to the liquor store on your own? Did you go and get beer this week? Or did you rely on a delivery that never showed up?
No. I am now a solid dial-a-bottle customer.
Really?
I even know my driver is Mike. Mike is my driver. Yeah. So, but right, like, so it's fascinating, like the extent to which everything in the United States now is a divisive political issue. Like, so I had a meeting earlier today regarding some company issues regarding COVID-19, and this is a company that has an office in Houston, and so well, one of the people on the call was Houston, and like everybody's very keen on the idea that we're going to move forward and we're going to tackle this thing. We're going to handle it the best way we can, and ultimately this is this is a science company that actually might have some contributions to make in terms of COVID-19 protocols. And so we're developing that, and we're working on it right now. And we're going to try to do it in a way that's, where any IP we develop makes us money later. But what we're rolling out now is going to be of benefit, sort of just generally to pitch in, right? I mean, I think that's a very Canadian attitude. And the one sort of frowny face in the meeting was our office in Houston, made the comment that, well, I think this is all a very emotional time. And it's sort of like, well, but is it? I guess in the United States it is, because down there, there's no consensus as to what to do. There's consensus, I think, pretty broadly in Canada. Like if somebody had told me, 4 months ago that Chrystia Freeland and Doug Ford were going to team up together and be besties in sorting out a way to shut down the economy to save lives, I would have choked on whatever I was drinking at the time. That is exactly the way Canadians deal with this kind of shit. We fucking sort it out. But in the United States, it really has become an issue of trust. One side doesn't trust the other. They can't accept that this might actually be a real event that has nothing to do with politics. And so the result is blame and like constant worry and uncertainty as to what to do. And fuck, man, I really, man.
I just read that.
I can see why the author of the game would be dismayed by a situation like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just read this morning that apparently Dr. T in the White House down there was commenting about how he was disappointed that Barack Obama had not left him some sort of pandemic play-by-play or whatever. And the lead doctor guy said, well, actually, we have a 90-page document that prepares us for what we should be doing during a pandemic already. But the problem is you gutted that department and the documents, were basically put into a box somewhere. Not to mention the lack of attention for this whole idea of when you open things up, you're going to get more cases of the disease. And that, I guess, has happened in Lebanon. Lebanon opened up, I gather, about 3 or 4 days ago, and immediately saw a spike in cases again, and then they shut the country down again, or shut Lebanon down again. So, it's this whole thing where if you don't, sit back and just wait it out, I mean, it's going to be a problem long term. And it's happening all over the place. I gather some places in Texas relaxed their rules, and they suddenly saw a spike in spreading the disease and stuff like that. So
sitting here in Korea of all places.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, it's been well, if I actually look for COVID spikes online, I mean, you're going to see South Korea. You're going to see China having. They also had a spike as well recently. And Ontario just had a spike in cases just the last few days. So, it's one of those things, right?
Anytime you loosen the restrictions, you are going to get spikes. In fact, I would argue that they want to see a bit of a spike. We've been kind of languishing here right now, putting everything on hold. But at some point, we have to accept, in the absence of a vaccine, we're all going to have to get it to build up an immunity to it.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing.
They
As
just
part of
want
that,
to do it in a controlled way.
The dude face, I can't remember his name. The head doctor man in Trump's cabinet there. His whole discussion point is that he's basically the only one who's saying things counter to what the rest of that group is saying, and they kept telling him, I gather yesterday, that he was not the be-all, end-all, and not the godlike person who had all the control, and he said, I don't have all the control, I just have all the knowledge, and you don't. And so, yeah, I thought that was very pointed. But, yeah, I mean, anyway, the reason I thought of him again was he apparently was very blunt the other day, yesterday morning or the morning before, that in reality, as much as there is a ongoing work for vaccines, we already have some human trials here and there, but he said that a reliable one is at least it's next year, like this time next year, where we might actually see sort of the first round of something that's had enough testing and whatnot. So, but whether or not it will work,
in my mind, that's optimistic.
No, it's very true. I mean, people. It's so interesting that people go, blah, this, that, and the other thing, and vaccine this, vaccine that, and how come it takes so long? And then they compare it to vaccines that have been around for 50, 60 years. And it's like, well, they didn't just turn around one day and go, boy, we've got to really fight this whole measles thing. Maybe we should put a vaccine together. Are you done yet, Ted? Cook that thing on the stove a bit higher, and then we'll get some more. No, it took a long... And back then, it would have taken even longer than it would take now, since we have all this, additional technology in the medical field, blah, 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 blah. And, yeah, it's very strange that we are so blind, and we're so incredibly used to the way that, things are, with, the world chugging along and whatnot. And then the pandemic comes along, and we expect it to be a bump in the road, and there we go. And quite honestly, I mean, I'm expecting, what did they say that just in the news last week or the week before about they've already identified in China, or the Chinese scientists, whatever the group is called over there, had identified like another 150 different coronaviruses, over the last couple of years. And this is just one of them, and they're like, yeah, so that one kind of sucks, but it's a mild one. We've got other ones that we found that kind of really suck.
But here's the thing: the circumstances need to be just right for it to be a real killer. Because you take a look at something like MERS, right, which is the Middle Eastern version of SARS. Essentially, it's a respiratory disease. The death rate on that makes SARS look very pedestrian, but it doesn't spread very, very much because it kills the host faster than it can go and interact with other people, right? Yeah. So it kills the host, but it doesn't spread. This one kills the host, but it's almost as infectious as a cold, but it's not quite as deadly as a SARS. But when it spreads as easily as it does, then the cumulative number of deaths that rack up just become astronomical because of its spread rate. And if it killed them faster, then it wouldn't be as deadly, ironically.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like Ebola. Ebola is like really deadly and really horrible, but by the time you realize you have it, you're already half liquid inside. Yeah. So, I mean, it's... I mean, we're just lucky that this particular one, which has a really high infection rate because of just the numbers that it produces. Like, we're talking about, like, the flu produces 100,000, where this one, by the time you get 100,000 flu viruses, this one's got like 40 million or something. So it replicates way faster, and it's able to copy itself way faster, and we're just lucky it's not like COVID-19. Oh, my bowels! You know, and then, you know, your entire intestinal tract falls out of your butt. So, and that's the thing with Ebola. By the time you're infectious, you're already dead. So, I mean, that's why you see like photographs and video from. I'll pick on, you know, Africa, since I don't know where else Ebola comes from. But you see those photographs of basically the body is on the ground. The person has died of the disease, and they're just hosing them down with disinfectant. And, you know, because it's highly contagious, but luckily pretty much on your way out. I mean, it's not, you knock on wood that it doesn't, you know, become, longer living in its infection stage, I guess, or contagious stage. So, yeah, that would really be, oh my God. But again, I think ultimately we dodged a bullet, and in a global perspective, I'm not saying or wanting to belittle people who died of this, but
we're in a position to do something about it in a way that we wouldn't have been, you know, even 50 years ago.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, so that's a piece of what's going on here. The other thing that I'd like to point out, though, is that in terms of the way this thing has become politicized, here's an interesting counterexample, and it's a counterexample that isn't Canada, which I'm sure some people will appreciate.
Right.
You know, I'm a lion for Canada and all that, but a totally different approach than what we're doing and what is going on in the United States is what's going on in Sweden, where as a society they've decided, largely on the advice of their scientists, not even largely on the advice, exclusively on the advice of their scientists, because the political branch don't really get a say in what the scientific message is. They don't get to go out, and say, well, you know, our scientist said this, but we disagree. They don't get to do that. The scientists, they say what's going on, and everybody goes with that story, right? And what they decided was, herd immunity is the way that we're going with this thing. It's going to be brutal. We're going to lose people, but that's life. And, you know, as a society, we already social distance more than other Europeans. So we're going to keep the bars open, and we're just going to weather it. You know, like, I mean, what's interesting about that is that could be a very divisive opinion in the United States.
Yeah.
But in Sweden, everybody is just sort of like, okay, well, we agree that this is what we're doing, so this is what we're doing.
Well, okay, well, I'm going to argue that we are doing that to a certain extent here in Canada, but we're trying to control it.
Our lockdown measures are much heavier than Sweden's, you understand?
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that we're accepting the fact that people are going to get infected, and we're just doing it at a rate that our medical system can handle it. So we're slowing down the rates of infection so we can deal with the people who are infected. But make no mistake, there is an understanding that infections need to happen and will continue to happen until there is a herd immunity.
Like, would you have guessed that only 2 months ago that we would have 4.5 million infections of this disease? Like, would you ever guess that?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised it's not higher.
Actually, so about this time last year, I was in a law class, and we were discussing animal law and CAFOs. I don't know. Is anybody familiar with the term CAFO? Do you know what a CAFO is?
No.
It's a concentrated animal feeding lot.
Oh yeah, those. Yeah.
They are what people mean when they say factory farm. And the problem with these things is that they have generated globally most of the major outbreaks of flu virus that we've been tracking.
Oh, wow.
They rely on heavy doses of antibiotics in all of the animals, because otherwise animals aren't supposed to live that close to each other, right? So you look at that perspective on is this a danger? And my argument in class, and being the weirdo that actually eats meat in a class studying animal law, I was making this argument because I was like, well, I'm not going to stop eating meat. I'm not making an argument for veganism here. What I am making an argument for is that this type of farming is inappropriate. It's not fit for purpose, and it's going to kill us if we do too much of it. Why? Because look at what's happening in hospitals with superbugs and the overuse of antibiotics, right? Now, this is antivirals that would be the issue here. And we don't really have effective antivirals to the extent that we have effective antibiotics. So the problem's more severe there, right? So anyway, everybody in the class was sort of like, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't really think that argument's going to fly because at the end of the day, nobody's really worried about that. And truthfully, you know, like we just don't agree with eating meat generally. Okay, right? So you know, I lost that round, but here we are a year later, and I gotta say, it sounds like an argument people might want to give a little thought to.
Mm-hmm. For what it's worth, Locke, I'm on board with your argument.
Yeah, I totally am. Factory farming it don't work. It's not the way things were supposed to be.
I pictured you in a rocking chair, sitting, chewing on chew. It don't work.
Yeah, there's back in 1918, I saw a factory farm. It was turning out computerized sheep. It was computerized sheep. Why they run amok. Killed old man Witherspoon.
Old man Witherspoon.
Down at the well. Yep.
Brilliant. Dave's gone bye-bye, Egon. But you know, I mean, the scary thing, I think, ultimately is that of all the studies so far, or the research that's being done about how this thing spreads, my favorite stat was just a couple days ago about how 86% of cell phones of people that had the disease were contaminated, and they think that a lot of people have shared cell phones and things like that, not thinking that it was a surface like a doorknob, and that they, you know, because people are cautious about doorknobs, they're washing their hands, they're protecting themselves, and that kind of stuff. But the problem is that apparently there's two surfaces that are being ignored: the surface of a cell phone and the surface of gloves, because people that are wearing latex gloves as a protection thing, they take them off inappropriately. They do this, or pull them off with their teeth, or whatever. They don't dispose of them or remove them properly.
What?
So, oh yeah.
What?
Well, that's the thing, right?
I've seen it.
What?
Yeah,
I was at the grocery store. I saw a woman wearing a surgical mask. She was wearing it backwards, first of all. But she was wearing a surgical mask, and she had surgical gloves on at the same time. And in the minute and a half I was standing there watching her, she was like this with her mask, you know, adjusting it. She's got her hands all over her face. This is why we don't wear masks, people, unless you've got symptoms.
Well,
because it just encourages you to touch your face.
Well, there's that guy, the governor of New Jersey, or one of the states near New York, and he was photographed, like filmed at a conference, like a news conference, about how important it was to wear a mask, and he pulled the thing out, and then he put it on this way. He took the elastic, put it around his neck, and completely like he'd never seen one before. And you know, and of course, going back to the very beginning of was it a Canadian, or was it the person in the States, whoever the head medical professional was, talking about how important it was and how it was spread, and then they licked their finger to turn the page. You know, like blah 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 blah, very contagious, this, that, and the other thing.
Oh my
Turn
God,
page,
yeah.
you know, like
Yeah, don't touch your face. Don't touch your face. Don't put your fingers in your mouth.
So yeah, it's amazing.
I could swear she was Canadian, and
I think there was the in Ontario. I think it was right at the beginning when Ontario itself was starting to see a spike in cases when it first when the first cases started showing up, I guess. But I at the end of, to be honest, I mean, I'm not too knock on wood, I'm not too concerned about this particular disease because it's been around now. We kind of have an idea of how it moves and what kind of things it can do. But I'm worried about the next one because we're going to get all complacent about, okay, this one's passed finally. We're seeing like 1 or 2 cases every couple of months. Okay, great. It's like any other disease in the population. Blah 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 blah. More people. And then, like we were saying earlier, like what is the next one going to be? And if it kills you outright, like
if you look at the statistics from the 1918 Spanish flu, the first wave was nothing compared to the second wave. The second wave was like 3 to 4 times worse than what the first wave was.
Yeah. Elaborate. Yeah. Tell me more.
I think that we can expect that when the second wave hits, when they're expecting it to hit in the fall, we can expect it to be far, far, far worse than it is right now because people are going to get complacent. They think that this is over, even though they've been told outright that it's not over. That you still have to do observe social distancing and all that kind of stuff. Yes, we've loosened stuff off a little bit, but they're going to go overboard with it, of course. And, as the summer comes to an end, the amount of cases is going to spike, and it's going to spike hard. And, we're in.
Well, it's like Italy. Like everyone was freaking about Italy and Spain when the pandemic was first starting up. And now the U.S. has just dwarfed those in their numbers. Like, Italy in total cases is 222,000, and the U.S. has got 1.4 million. So, and
the U.S. last week was reporting like 3,000 deaths a day.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're up to now, but it's certainly higher.
Their deaths currently are at 85,000 from this.
How many per day?
I'm trying to find that information. I don't know. I just have totals.
But, a lot of people compare this to the regular seasonal flu. And yes, people die from the regular seasonal flu every single year. I question whether 3,000 people a day or a week die from seasonal flu in the United States. I don't think so.
I mean, the lowest numbers that they've had in recent days was apparently 750 deaths. And that was a few days ago, and now they're back, they're peaking at 2,000 a day kind of thing. So, God, don't you wish that we had other things to talk about? Because when you think about beer and the coronavirus, the only stories that really pop out.
I got something else that we could talk about.
That's all right. Take your pants off.
Okay. Well, there is a bit of a COVID angle to this.
Mm-hmm.
Down in Mexico, all the the breweries have had to halt production because the Mexican government did not feel that it was an essential service. So the beer is kind of drying up in Mexico. So some people have resorted to making their own alcohol through bootleggers and that kind of thing. And so far, according to an article that I have read in the Windsor Star, something like 100 different Mexicans have been killed by making their own beer.
What?
Or alcohol.
Yeah, here we go. At least 70 dead in Mexico from drinking tainted alcohol. A surge in deaths since late April has come amid the ban of alcohol sales in Mexico by some governments. And people are drinking tainted alcohol. Now, what kind of alcohol? Cheap, popular moonshine. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, they're drinking wood alcohol is what they're doing.
Most likely, yeah.
They're drinking the fucking tails, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean that in that whole process, you gotta be careful because the stuff that comes off at the very beginning is like lighter fluid, and that's not really what you should be drinking.
Yeah.
And as you get later in the process, that's the tails. You're not really wanting to drink that. I mean, it tastes like shit anyway. But I could totally see that. I mean that is not something unusual. I mean, people have. What is the joke, which is I'm blind drinking your moonshine? Well, Bo and Luke Duke, I don't actually know if they actually made the stuff or is it all Uncle Jesse? I mean, it's experience.
It was Jesse, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So an update from South Africa. My mate in South Africa, he's telling me that there's a guy called the beer seller who so they're under so effectively his view is that the government wanted to shut down alcohol anyway because they're a little bit twisted in the head and maybe a little bit religious and stuff, and so didn't want the populace drinking alcohol, and so they've effectively used COVID-19 as an excuse to just shut down all alcohol. So there is a guy, a little bit of a Robin Hood figure, out selling beer in Cape Town called the Beer Seller. There you go.
Nice. What's really interesting about that is that anyone who's decided that people should, or anyone has decided that at some level they should be banning alcohol sales, did they not ever take a history course about any world history? Because we had a pretty big prohibition going on over here, or at least in this neck of the woods for quite some time, that ultimately didn't actually work.
What you mean the Americans that we profited on by like people like Seagram's selling?
Duh! I mean, come on! If your neighbors be like, I'm totally gonna do that. I mean,
I wish the Americans would bring prohibition back, so us Canadians could go back to making crazy money.
What are you guys gonna do? We have rye. It grows good up here, and we make a lot of it. Could you make alcohol out of like mustard seed or something? Would that taste good at all in any way? I've never even. That's the only thought. First time ever had.
I don't know why you would try to do that in particular, but I'm sure it's possible.
For canola crops, could you ferment that and make that interesting?
You could ferment anything.
I imagine so. Although, dear God, what would you call it?
Crap, probably. But
you know the old term for canola, right?
No. What is it? Tell me. Inform me. Educate me.
Before it was called canola, it was called rapeseed.
Rapeseed. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, canola became more. Yeah, okay. That's true. Rapeseed oil. But I don't know. There's just definitely some things to be said for making your own alcohol, of which I might be brewing beer as we speak, or even what is that?
You're not brewing beer.
What's the juice that we used? Thanks, Media Gallery.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I was. I was asking you a question because you spoke.
What do you want?
What was the juice that we started brew with?
Apple peeling juice.
Apple peeling juice. We took some apple peels and some apple juice and mixed them together, and what do you got? Yumminess. Gotta say...
You fermented that.
Duh. It fell into the bucket. Ferment away. It's like if I had a dog and throw a dog in there, ferment the dog. But I mean, there's definitely if I could make a still that I could like a big. I'm talking like a big one. Like we're talking 1 million gallons here. We're not going to mess around. Actually, speaking of 1 million gallons, have you ever seen the documentaries about the vodka production in various parts of the world?
No.
No? Oh, it's amazing. Where you have huge humongous pipes coming out of the stills that are just like 1,000 liters a second, pumping out this alcohol and directly into like big tanker trucks and stuff.
Where did you see this?
It was a documentary series hosted by the actor, not Morgan Freeman. Hang on. It was
Matthew McConaughey.
Oh my God, what is his name? He's that actor. He's got that face. Oh, he was in the X-Men. He was in one of the X-Men. Brian Dennehy. I'm sad that Brian Dennehy died. Hang on. I'll tell you in a second because he's an actor you would have seen. You've seen this guy. He plays Stryker in the X-Men movies. But he's in the William Stryker. Here he is. Yeah, here we go. The actor's name is here right in front of me. Oh, come on. Brian Cox. He hosted a documentary that I saw on Netflix, and he talked about how he is from the UK, and he is from an area of the UK that has a lot of brewing going on, and they had whiskey and rye and things. You have your hand up, Locke. What?
So this is on Netflix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
Netflix.
So, but anyway, he was talking about how different alcohols are made, and it was basically I think the angle of the documentary was talking about the sins of mankind or something, and anyway, it's a brilliant documentary. I recommend it. Brian Cox, I'm sure you'll find it. But yeah, it was an amazing education in how alcohol is made and how we don't have a really good concept of commercialized alcohol brewing and distilling, and the numbers are staggering. Like it was scary. Talk about something else. I'll see if I can find what this thing was called.
Sorry, this is the production of alcohol, and it was scary?
No. Just scary about how much is made. Like I'm talking like there was video of these large pipes where these, building-sized stills are pumped.
Deeply reassuring.
No. Okay. Scary at the amounts. I'm not saying it wasn't scary about what was coming out of the pipes. I'm just saying that I'd never really had a concept of, I always had this idea that these individuals were out there making this, kind of like out in, I'm going to pick on the Dukes of Hazzard again, like Joe Smith out in the middle of the woods somewhere with his still, and he's got like, 4, jugs of alcohol ready for sale. But these things were just like, it was like a hose of booze coming out that was just, it's like, as the stuff's coming out, they're shoveling the ingredients in, and it was, nonstop. And kind of awesome at the same time. I'm just saying, I had never really given it a whole lot of thought about what exactly that meant for that.
It's kind of like Mick alcohol.
You know what? Yes. That is exactly the way to think about it.
A lot of people associate alcohol with a mix, but
I'm trying to remember what the damn thing was called. Addicted to Pleasure? Is that what it's called? That might be it. Yeah, here we go. Brian Cox reveals the rich and controversial past of sugar, alcohol, tobacco, and opium around the world. And by the way, this is actually the documentary that I had never, ever really given it much thought, but about how England dealt with brewing back in the day, where you had fights between breweries where if you were a brewery that was downstream, you were getting poisoned on purpose by the competitors who had breweries upstream because they would dump stuff into the water to pollute the water for the booze we were making, and how in the cities, you could either afford there's actually like the high blend batches versus the lowland, whatever the hell it was. But yeah, it was amazing because I'd never really given it a whole lot of thought that 100 years ago that people were basically, well, our competitive advantage about our product is that we're killing the people downstream by poisoning the stream. Dump those dead cows in there. Let's let them float downstream and see what happens. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. It was an amazing documentary. I do recommend it. And you get to see Brian Cox get loaded in Manchester, I think. Something like that. Right. But there you are. So what else do you say about booze?
Properly English.
Especially since I remember the first time I had a friend in choir many years ago who was from Scotland, and but he didn't have an accent. Like he had left to come to Canada at around that time where your accent is there, but you're just at that stage where in your development where you start picking up whatever accent in the local region you are if you're there for a short period of time. However, he drank beer and suddenly you could not understand a damn thing he was saying because he would be intoxicated and this thick accent came out of nowhere. And he could not control it. Like once he was intoxicated, he was like, he just could not get back to the Canadian thing, right? So it was hilarious to watch, because he would be like, "Let's go have a beer. Yes, a pint would be great. Yes, all right, here we go." 3 hours later, he's like, "What the hell? I came in with one person and." Would you imagine a trick like that if you were identified only by your accent? You could be like thrown out of a bar, and then you come back the next day and it's like, "Hey, you!" And you're like, "I beg your pardon, I don't understand. What individual are you speaking of?" "Oh, well, that's not you. Come on in." Yeah, we tossed out a Scot last night.
Here's a curious fact. Did you know that the voice for Clayton on Red Dwarf was
for Crichton?
Crichton was developed. So his natural accent is English, but he was trying. He had visited Canada and was trying to invent an accent that he thought fitted the character, and so he thought he would mix a little bit of an American accent with a little bit of a Scottish accent, and ended up with Crichton. And he thought it was the Vancouver accent, but was later told that he was wrong. You know what I actually think Crichton's accent believably is, and when you chat with anyway, I think I've encountered it more than once on Vancouver Island. What I think that is a Vancouver Island accent.
Okay, I could see that. I mean, I suspect that any accent, if I were to be identifiable by accent, it would probably be that one. Yeah.
But I don't sound like Craig. But we all know people on Vancouver Island who speak a little bit like this, don't we?
That is very true. I do believe I understand exactly who you're referring to. Did you actually see that, speaking of Red Dwarf, this was on, saw this on YouTube sometime last fall, but they're doing another series.
Yeah. Which I thoroughly approve of. Why waste something awesome by going, "Oh, well, we'll just cancel it. Well, there's no market for that anymore." Yeah, fuck off. Everybody wants to watch Red Dwarf.
It's called Red Dwarf: The Promised Land. Here we go. So it is going to be a television film and the 13th installment of Red Dwarf. It sees the Red Dwarf crew, Lister, Rimmer, the Cat, and Crichton face off against Rodon, the leader of a band of feral cats who is pledged to annihilate all those who don't worship him as their god. Yeah, there you go. I don't know when it's coming out. Oh, the official release date. It was supposed to be already, like 9th of April, but who the hell knew? too busy being at home, I guess. But Alan, I'm assuming you've watched Red Dwarf, yes?
Yes, I have.
Now,
I
who's
didn't really much care for it?
I beg your pardon? What?
Not a fan of Red Dwarf?
How do I
Seriously?
kick him off this damn show?
I
There we
find
go.
it funny. Like people, like I was sitting there, I was watching it with people. They're laughing, and I'm like, "What's funny?"
Smeghead.
Yes, sir.
Smeghead.
Like I get it. I get it.
How do you kill a curry monster?
I haven't watched in a long.
Lager with a lager. Anyway. I need to refresh my beer. You continue on your own for a moment.
Talk amongst yourselves. I need to.
I'm having a good time, not. Yeah, no,
you ever see that scene in Scanners where his head exploded?
You know, it's really funny. I was having a conversation today with somebody, and it got to the point where I wanted to ask them. I was going to make a quote. I was going to quote something out of Wayne's World, and then I realized I think that the age gap is a bit too far, and if I quoted something, I actually caught myself going, "No, I won't say that because I suspect it'll be missed." I mean, I would hope it wouldn't be, but I don't know. The age difference is definitely going to be a thing. It's like when a friend of the show, Sean, who teaches at university, where this is going back a few years, where he actually realized that he was getting old because he was teaching a class. And he had a quote. He quoted Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and none of his class had ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And that's what he said. Yep, the cultural that is the barrier. That was the year that I realized the barrier is creeping.
That action is coming back fast.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
We have passed the transom of the millennials. The millennials are done. They are a lost generation of bad people who will not matter in the future. So they outnumber us all. So they're like worse than the baby boomers in that respect. But I have great faith in the generation coming up because they have adopted the '80s as their champion decade.
That is actually true. I've seen that.
They all understand exactly what Sean Henry is referring to because they're studying that shit hard right now. When I look at my niece and nephew, I am proud to say that they daub themselves with neon paint, do crazy hairstyles like Cyndi Lauper. Well, the niece does. The nephew's got Iron Maiden hair, but
nice.
But they're turning out okay. I'm happy to say that I think they're going to save us from the millennials.
It's like at the very end of I don't know. Maybe not the very end, but partway through, close to the end, in the film Time Bandits, where they're talking about what is if I were God, what a waste of time that God has come along and created this thing. I mean, lasers day one, nipples for men. What is the point? And so if you ever if you ever want to sort of compare the millennials as bad people, I think you're right. I think basically we should, as soon as we become the founding, our age group has entered the political arena, that we're climbing the ladder, and I think there's a few people a little bit older than us that are definitely, Trudeau at the very top of the food chain there. I'm surprised he just doesn't. I would not be surprised if one day he turns around and says, "All right, round them up," and suddenly anyone born into a camp somewhere on an ice floe, who knows? We have lots of room.
Well, no, what you do is you make like a bunch of ghettos.
You make some ghettos, yes, of course. Put a wall around Victoria proper,
you make them wear armbands with an M on it, and this has never been done.
This is so wrong.
Good.
Yeah, we're all going to. You were going to hell. Thanks for that one, Alan. Thank you so much.
Cancel you.
You're gonna be. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Alan's canceled. It's like Ricky Gervais said. You know, you can never. You don't tell people they can't make fun of some things because or anything, because you can. You just have to be brave enough. Well done, Alan. Anyway, speaking of time, I just realized we've actually just broken the hour mark. If you want to keep going, we can. Otherwise, I think Alan needs to be tucked in and go to bed immediately. But Locke, I know that you are, of course, a few hours ahead of us. So
I realistically have worked.
Exactly. So on that note, thank you everyone for watching. We've had a few watches today, which is really kind of nice on a Wednesday night. And don't forget, if you ever see our show, tell people about it. We have a YouTube channel. We, of course, are called the Crafty Boys. You can find us there. You can find us on Facebook as well as the Tweeters. And also, actually, that's pretty much it. On Twitch. We have a Twitch channel, but, videos disappear after a few days, so, whatever. But thank you all, and tell people about stuff, and tell people on this show how amazing we all are. Because we need the reassurance, because there's a pandemic on. Have you not noticed? On that note, Alan, take us out.
Well, let's see if it works.
No, not so much.
Oh, no.
No, it didn't work.